WWE loves to mine its history for nostalgia points with fans, but there are some things the faces of the company try to never bring up, and for good reason. This one everyone still remembers, even if WWE preferred you didn't. On June 1st, 2025, R-Truth shocked fans by announcing on X that he had been released. His wording was a little off. What actually happened was that the company was allowing his contract to expire because they didn't come to terms on a renewal. Truth had just had his biggest match in years the week before on Saturday night's main event, where he faced his childhood hero John Cena, so he was at the forefront of fans' minds. And they made their outrage known, not just on social media, but by hijacking live shows, chanting, "We want truth" from the crowd. Truth's peers were also reportedly upset by the news. Many publicly posted that he was a positive presence in the locker room. Cena himself even posted a photo of Truth to his Instagram. Fans chanted, "We want truth" for about a week until he came back. He appeared at Money in the Bank on June 7th, helping Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes against Cena and Logan Paul. At the press conference afterward, Paul Triple H Levesque seemed to indicate this was the plan all along.
You enjoying the show? All part of the show, man.
But on the June 9th Raw, Truth made clear that he had really been let go and the fans brought him back. He thanked them from the bottom of his heart and revealed that he would start going by his real name, Ron Killings, indicating a more serious tone for his character. Pretty much from the very beginning on NXT, success in the developmental brand has not been a guarantee of the same on the main roster. Yes, some stars do very well, from Seth Rollins and Charlotte Flair to Tiffany Stratton and Roxanne Perez. But there are some who struggle. For instance, Carmelo Hayes, who went from being an NXT champion to floundering on SmackDown. Karrion Kross is another former champ who hasn't exactly found his place in the broader WWE landscape. Some NXT stars even get called up to basically do nothing on the main roster. A recent example is Blair Davenport, who had some pretty major storylines in NXT. When she got drafted to the main roster in 2024, she only had a handful of matches before being released in February 2025. In the mid-2010s, it became a bit of a running joke among fans that they were probably going to see a match between Dolph Ziggler and Kofi Kingston in the middle of any given Raw, because it happened a lot. Despite the roster being huge, the same matchups just seemed to happen all the time, and people noticed. The company tried to fix this in 2018 when company leaders said they were going to start listening to fans more, and they did away with automatic rematch clauses. And yet, the trend persists. Shinsuke Nakamura versus LA Knight for the US title repeatedly on SmackDown, Carmelo Hayes versus Andrade in a best-of-7 series, Damian Priest versus Finn Balor or some other Judgment Day member was a constant on Raw until Priest switched brands. Constant rematches, even if both competitors are great dance partners, make for stale shows. When Cody Rhodes won the 2024 Men's Royal Rumble, fans immediately saw it as an opportunity for him to make good and finish his story after his WrestleMania 39 loss to Roman Reigns the year before. WWE, and particularly The Rock, attempted to flip the script, though. On the February 2nd episode of SmackDown, a visibly uncomfortable Rhodes called out The Rock and seemed to give up his Mania main event spot to Roman's elder cousin. Fans revolted. They expressed their displeasure online and at live shows, chanting, "We want Cody" at every opportunity. Even other wrestlers got behind Rhodes on social media. WWE had to quickly alter its storyline, putting Rhodes back into the main event at a Las Vegas press conference, and eventually having him go on to win the undisputed WWE Championship at WrestleMania 40. The Rock, meanwhile, adopted his new heel persona, the Final Boss.
And enjoy the ride that The Rock is going to take your candy asses on. So hashtag that. Hashtag Cody Crybabies.
The change was reminiscent of another on-the-fly response to a fan uprising 10 years earlier in the build to WrestleMania 30. Despite Batista winning the Royal Rumble, fans emphatically demanded that Daniel Bryan get his main event shot in what the company dubbed the Yes Movement. Bryan did finally get his chance and went on to win the championship. When Vince McMahon purchased WCW in 2001, lots of fans immediately started fantasy booking dream matches between the biggest stars from both companies. But when the long-awaited invasion finally happened, it didn't go down that way. In storyline, it was Vince's son Shane McMahon who bought the WWE's longtime competitor, and he initially promised to give his dad a run for his money by operating the promotion as a separate entity from WWE. This manifested that May with some of WCW's mid-carders showing up and attacking WWE's stars on Raw. By July, WWE gave the separate WCW brand a test run, and it went about as poorly as it could. The WCW Championship match between Booker T and Buff Bagwell essentially killed the idea entirely. So instead, the invasion became a storyline about WWE, WCW, and an ECW faction led by Stephanie McMahon fighting it out for dominance. It ended up being just another McMahon family feud angle, which fans had seen plenty of. To boot, none of WCW's top stars like Sting and Goldberg were around because they were still under contract to WCW's former owner, Time Warner. Because the WCW side didn't have any major stars, really, WWE had some of its own switch sides, and none of it made any sense. Stone Cold Steve Austin had been fired from WCW years earlier and made a much bigger name for himself in WWE. Why on earth would he join the WCW side? We never got a good answer. Pro wrestling is a highly competitive business. For every major star who gets ample TV time and wins championships, there's someone who has to take the pin, or worse, sit in the back in catering for the whole show. Not every wrestler can get that big push. Sometimes fans notice a major talent who seems to not be getting their due in the booking. There's the aforementioned Daniel Bryan situation, for whom it took a massive fan revolt to get him into a top spot, but there are plenty of other stars fans get behind, yet they never get to reach those heights. The Cesaro section never got the man now known in AEW as Claudio Castagnoli above the mid-card, for example. One particularly interesting case of that is Kofi Kingston, who spent years whiling away on the mid-card before striking gold with Xavier Woods and Big E in the New Day. In the build to WrestleMania 35 in 2019, fans started making waves about Kingston finally getting his big title shot. After overcoming a lot of roadblocks, he finally did, beating Bryan for the title in what was dubbed Kofi Mania. His title run ended up being a disappointment, though. Kingston held the title for 180 days. Many fans were infuriated by how he lost it in just 8 seconds to Brock Lesnar on the Fox premiere of SmackDown.
There have been a lot of times where, the people would want something, and then for whatever reason, we don't go that route.
When it comes to All Elite Wrestling, there's what WWE's leadership says, and then what it does. Ask Triple H or other members of the top brass about AEW, and they'll say that they don't think of it as any real competition. But their actions, with constant counter-programming and regular acquisitions of former AEW talent, says otherwise. On the flip side, quite a few stars have left WWE to go on to pretty major success in AEW. Ricochet, for example, went from languishing in WWE to being a key roster member in AEW. Daniel Bryan, aka Bryan Danielson, had a big late career AEW run. Mercedes Moné, known in WWE as Sasha Banks, is a perennial AEW title holder. And then there's the Hurt Syndicate, formerly the Hurt Business, of Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, and MVP, who were released by WWE and now get time on AEW TV every week. AEW probably wouldn't even exist if it weren't for a WWE star being frustrated with his booking. Cody Rhodes is back in WWE now, but he left in 2016 after his embarrassing run as Stardust. He joined with Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and Tony Khan to start AEW in 2019 and helped bring star power to the company's early years. John Cena's heel turn at Elimination Chamber 2025 was definitely a big deal.
Tune into Monday Night Raw to see how I ruin wrestling.
He hadn't officially been a heel in around 20 years, but the audience did boo him earlier, even if WWE prefers you don't remember that. Cena left his Doctor of Thugonomics gimmick behind him in 2005 and began around a decade of top-of-the-card dominance unseen since Hulk Hogan. Cena rarely lost a match during that period, and every person or faction that stepped to him ended up getting chumped. For instance, he nearly single-handedly defeated the Nexus, a group of promising young stars, at SummerSlam in 2010. Then he did single-handedly beat them in a 6-on-1 handicap match on Raw. That seemed to be a turning point for a lot of fans, who were getting tired of Super Cena always winning. Some were sick of it long before that. The infamous "If Cena wins, we riot" sign was from One Night Stand in 2006, but Cena started getting distinctly mixed reactions in just about every city around then. WWE would prefer you don't think about Vince McMahon at all anymore for lots of reasons. One of his edicts as the head of the company was that the show must go on no matter what. Most infamously, the 1999 Over the Edge pay-per-view continued after Owen Hart fell to his death. 6 years later, in 2005, the company came under fire for airing a controversial angle on the day of the bombings of London's transit system. July 7th, Mohammed Hassan, an Arab-American character upset about his treatment following the 9/11 attacks, sent his masked minions to beat up The Undertaker in the ring and choke him with piano wire in what was dubbed a terrorist attack. The pre-taped show aired just hours after the bombings, and the segment caught the attention of major news outlets. The angle eventually led to Hassan's firing, despite none of it really being the performer's fault. Another regrettable example of this was the Raw tribute show to Chris Benoit in June 2007. The details of the deaths of Benoit, his wife Nancy, and their son were not yet known when it aired, so it featured lots of WWE stars honoring the late wrestler. It would only come out later that Benoit had killed his wife and son, then himself. WWE quickly distanced itself from Benoit, and his name hasn't been mentioned on WWE TV ever since. The tribute Raw has essentially been erased from WWE history. It has never been available to officially stream. The Benoit case put considerable unwanted attention on WWE and its product, though quite a few things had already changed since the anything goes attitude era of the late 1990s and early 2000s. The negative publicity accelerated a shift toward more family-friendly shows. By July 2008, WWE announced it was moving away from its raunchier and more violent content, making all its programming TV PG. In some ways, the company's hand was forced. Sponsors were putting more pressure on WWE to polish up its image, so it did. And financially, the company was much better off for it, nearly tripling revenue thanks to corporate partnerships. Lots of fans were not happy about the shift toward more kid-focused fare, though, and ratings went down. WWE considers the PG era to have ended in 2014, becoming what the company calls the reality era, but all of its shows remain TV PG, even now. The discourse surrounding a potential change back to TV 14 has been going on for years now, beginning in 2022, when it was rumored Raw would become more edgy at the behest of the USA Network. Rumors began to swirl again before the show's January 2025 move to Netflix, when a TV 14 rating for the show was used as a placeholder, but Raw continues to be PG on the streaming service. It doesn't seem like it was even really on purpose for the first few years, but by the time he had 10 wins or so, it became a thing. The Undertaker didn't lose at WrestleMania. When WrestleMania 30 rolled around in 2014, his win streak stood at 21, and it seemed plausible that no one would ever break it. But then Brock Lesnar did it, to the shock of everyone in attendance. Even at the time, people questioned whether Lesnar was the right guy to break the streak. It's gotten even louder since Lesnar has been implicated in the sex trafficking lawsuit against Vince McMahon. The Undertaker apparently thought it should be someone else too, because Lesnar was already a big star.
I don't know that it enhanced him anymore. I think it would have been great for Roman.
Roman Reigns did defeat Taker in a no-holds-barred match at WrestleMania 33, but the streak had already been broken, so it didn't mean as much. Taker has also said he would have chosen Bray Wyatt as someone to break his streak. The Undertaker has also admitted he doesn't remember Lesnar defeating him at WrestleMania 30. He explained on an episode of his podcast that his last memory from the day is talking to his wife earlier in the afternoon, and things picked back up when he was taken to the hospital following the match for a concussion.
It was a rough night at the office for me.
Something that fans simultaneously deride and also go nuts for is WWE's constant callbacks to its bygone eras. In between current-day wrestlers having matches, you're sure to see a lot of references to things from 25, 30, even 40 years ago. One of the biggest examples of the nostalgia addiction is WWE's shows in Saudi Arabia. WWE brings in old-school, veteran talents, many of whom are said to receive big paydays for the events. This brought about one of the worst matches in recent memory, Shawn Michaels and Triple H versus The Undertaker and Kane. It's about that Michaels, who came out of retirement for it, and Undertaker both deeply regret. An even more recent example is Goldberg teasing one final match. In November 2024, Goldberg announced he would be having a retirement match a month after going face-to-face with Gunther at the Bad Blood in his home state of Georgia. The match was finally made official, Gunther versus Goldberg, for Saturday night's main event on July 12th in Atlanta, Georgia.